Hello brothers and welcome to Sigma Old Man channel. The smartest people in the room are usually the ones pretending they're not even in it. Strange, right? But that's exactly how highly intelligent Sigma males operate. Like undercover geniuses dodging the spotlight while quietly scanning the entire arena. While the rest of the world is busy playing social charades, these guys are somewhere in the back, analyzing, decoding, and silently asking, is everyone here actually okay? Here's a wild fact. Studies show that people with high intelligence often experience more social alienation than the average person, not because they're antisocial, but because they're tired of pretending dumb things are interesting. Sigma males. They mastered that early, dropped the act, and chose a different path entirely. In this video, we're not just talking about why Sigma males seem different, we're diving into the real, raw reasons why they are different. Not the Pinterest quotes or Reddit psychology takes, but the brutally honest, strange, and sometimes hilarious truths behind their behavior. By the end, you won't just understand them, you might even wish you were one. Let's get into it. Number one, they don't seek agreement, they seek alignment of truth. Highly intelligent Sigma males don't care about being agreed with. They're not addicted to the nods, claps, or the yeah, you're right echo chamber most people chase. What they crave is alignment, raw, unfiltered truth that makes sense. And if that truth doesn't match popular opinion, even better. They're not in the conversation to win you over. They're in it to find out if your brain can keep up with theirs without collapsing under the weight of reality. While most people talk to be liked or to appear smart, Sigma males talk to uncover logic. That's why they'll challenge you even when they agree with your conclusion, because the way you got there doesn't add up. You say 2 + 2 = 4, but you got there by guessing and vibes. They'll call you out. Not because they want to look superior, but because sloppy thinking irritates them like sand in the brain. They treat conversations like a mental jigsaw puzzle. They want to see if your thoughts are well built, not just polished with confident delivery. That's why charming people who speak well, but say nothing substantial, don't impress them. They see right through the fluff. And if you fake knowledge or bluff your way through a topic, they'll sit back, quietly losing respect for you in real time. This is also why Sigma males often seem blunt or indifferent in debates. They don't argue to win, they argue to test. They're not emotionally invested in being right, they're obsessed with what is right. If you prove them wrong with solid reasoning, they won't sulk or defend themselves to death. They'll respect you more. You'd be surprised how quickly they change their mind if your logic is airtight. But if you bring weak arguments to the table and try to sugarcoat them, they'll tear it apart, smile politely, and mentally bench you. What sets them apart is their obsession with intellectual honesty. They'd rather sit in silence than fake agreement. They don't need validation, they need coherence. It's why some people find them difficult or even cold, because Sigma males aren't performing. They're scanning for clarity, depth, and alignment with truth. Anything less feels like a waste of neurons. Number two, they feel most alive when deconstructing systems. Sigma males aren't drawn to systems because they trust them. They're drawn to systems because they don't. Their brain is hardwired to reverse engineer everything. They look at a religion, a corporation, or a political movement the same way a hacker looks at a locked file. What's the structure? Who benefits? What's being left out? What psychological buttons are being pushed to keep people obedient, compliant, or emotionally hooked? They aren't just asking what the system is, they're digging into why it exists, who created it, and what silent assumptions it demands people never question. And they do this instinctively. While most people either blindly worship or angrily reject a system, the Sigma male sits in the middle, quietly opening it up like an autopsy. He doesn't hate it by default, but he refuses to accept anything just because it's how things are. He wants to know what strings are being pulled behind the curtain, and once he sees them, it's over. The illusion is gone. He can't unsee the machinery anymore. It's not about being edgy or cynical, it's about intellectual survival. Because Sigma males know that most systems aren't built for the individual's growth. They're built for control, profit, and conformity. And once they figure out how a structure manipulates behavior, they start mentally mapping its vulnerabilities, its hypocrisies, and the unwritten rules it expects you to silently obey. This doesn't mean they're anarchists or rebels without a cause. In fact, they'll even respect a system if it's well designed, transparent, and doesn't insult their intelligence. But the second they sense that the foundation is built on illusion, fear, or mass manipulation, they quietly detach. And while the rest of the world is still arguing over who's right or wrong, they've already exited the debate, rewritten the framework in their head, and moved on. For the Sigma male, truth isn't handed down, it's extracted. And deconstructing systems is how they breathe. Not to tear everything down, but to understand what's real underneath the polished surface. Because only then can they move through life on their terms, not someone else's blueprint. Number 3, they don't want to be your leader, they just don't want to follow your rules. Sigma males have no interest in leading the crowd, but they're allergic to following it. Not because they're arrogant, not because they're stubborn, but because most of the rules out there are built on shaky logic, outdated traditions, or unspoken insecurities. They don't want power over people. They just want freedom from nonsense. They're not here to fight authority or cause chaos. If the system works and makes sense, they'll quietly respect it. But the second it starts demanding blind obedience or emotional conformity, they detach. It's not that they're rebellious, it's that they think for themselves. And if your rules can't stand up to basic scrutiny, they're not following them just to keep the peace. That's why people often mistake them for loners or troublemakers. They don't want the spotlight. They don't want to be your guru, your hero, or your fearless leader. What they do want is to be left alone to operate by their own internal compass, one that they've carefully built through logic, introspection, and raw life experience. They're the type who will let you run your cult, lead your team, or start your movement, while they quietly study the whole thing from a distance, sipping their coffee, wondering why everyone's so hyped up over rules that make zero sense. They don't interrupt, they don't lecture, they just opt out. And when people realize they're not participating, it somehow bothers everyone else more than it bothers them. Sigma males don't seek control, they seek clarity. And when they find it, they build their lives around it, regardless of who claps or complains. It's not some big theatrical rebellion, it's silent, calm, unapologetic. They don't need a revolution. They just quietly walk away from anything that insults their intelligence. Their loyalty isn't for sale. Their behavior isn't programmable, and their independence isn't up for debate. They're not chasing approval, influence, or a following. They're following something far rarer these days, their own damn mind. Number 4, they view society like a failed group project they'd rather redo alone. Highly intelligent Sigma males don't distance themselves from society because it's cool. They do it because it's exhausting. From the outside, it might look like rebellion or aloofness, but from the inside, it's just deep disappointment. They've observed how people behave in groups, how trends take over logic, how peer pressure replaces independent thinking, and all they see is chaos in a nice outfit. It's like watching a group project where everyone copied each other's work and nobody actually read the instructions. They're not trying to be edgy by rejecting norms. They've done the mental homework, checked the numbers, watched the patterns, and they've realized something most people won't admit. Society runs more on illusion than on intelligence. It rewards noise over depth, conformity over clarity, and emotional reactions over actual results. And Sigma males can't pretend they don't see it. So rather than waste time trying to edit someone else's broken template, they'd rather build a whole new framework that actually makes sense. They're the type to question why we romanticize overwork, why we worship celebrities, why school teaches obedience more than thinking, and why everyone's pretending they're fine when clearly they're not. And when they bring this up, people either get defensive or confused, because most have never even asked those questions. That's why Sigma males often keep their thoughts to themselves. Not because they're shy, but because they know dropping truth bombs in a room full of people playing pretend rarely ends well. To them, society feels like a group that started with potential but ended up chasing likes, trends, and surface-level validation. So instead of waiting around for everyone to wake up, Sigma males go solo, not out of bitterness but efficiency. They'll craft their own rules, design their own systems, and build a life where things actually work. And the irony, while everyone else is still trying to fix the group project with more noise and fancier distractions, the Sigma male's already written a cleaner version, on his own, in silence, and without asking for permission. Number 5, they don't miss out, they opt out. Sigma males don't sit around sulking because they weren't invited. They're not scrolling through social media wondering why they weren't tagged in some group photo or added to some chaotic group chat. They saw the invite, read the room, and decided, nah, that's not it. They don't feel left out. They feel free. What looks like isolation from the outside is actually intentional silence. What looks like social withdrawal is just them refusing to engage in what feels like emotional junk food. They're not anti-connection. They just refuse to connect with nonsense. Shallow interactions drain them. Forced small talk feels like intellectual sandpaper. So when they walk away from a group, it's not because they're hurt, it's because they've already scanned the emotional temperature and realized it's all noise. People competing for attention, pretending to have fun, signaling status, or repeating the same conversations in different outfits. It's exhausting. And here's what most people miss. Sigma males love their own company. They'd rather spend an evening diving into something real, an idea, a book, a solo project, than get caught in the emotional ping-pong of performative friendships. They don't need the group selfie to feel valid. They don't need public validation to feel alive. Their dopamine isn't triggered by likes, it's triggered by alignment. This is why they don't chase popularity. They don't want to be where the hype is. They want to be where the substance is. And when that's missing, they quietly exit the building. No drama, no speech, no cryptic Instagram quotes. Just silence and peace. Their version of FOMO isn't missing out on parties. It's missing out on time alone to think clearly. That's the real gold to them. Mental clarity, not social clutter. They're filtering out anything that feels fake, shallow, or manipulative. Not because they hate people, but because they hate noise. They don't withdraw because they're weak. They withdraw because they're not interested in pretending. Their solitude isn't a punishment, it's their sanctuary. And while the world spins in circles chasing connection at any cost, the Sigma male sits quietly, opting out, not to avoid life, but to live it on his terms. Number 6, they mentally edit every conversation in real time. Sigma males can't just have a conversation. Their brain runs a built-in editor that kicks in the moment someone opens their mouth. As you're talking, they're not just listening, they're dissecting. Every word is scanned for weight, intention, and logic. Filler phrases, deleted, contradictions, flagged, emotional fluff with no backbone, noted and filed under useless noise. It's not that they're being judgmental, it's just how their mind naturally processes language. That's why they seem quiet in group conversations. They're not disengaged, they're trying to survive the mental chaos. While others are bonding over recycled jokes and vague opinions, Sigma males are quietly analyzing the entire dialogue structure like it's a broken machine. And if you say something that doesn't add up, oh, they caught it. They might not call it out right away, but trust, they mentally bookmarked it. It's also why small talk feels unbearable to them. It's not just boring, it's mentally insulting. Asking them about the weather or what they do for fun is like trying to feed them plastic. They crave substance, not surface-level word vomit. If a conversation isn't anchored in something real, an idea, a deeper insight, a challenge, they check out fast. What throws people off is how fast they process. Sigma males don't need 5 minutes to notice you're rambling. They catch it in seconds. They hear what you meant to say, even if you didn't say it right. And they spot when you're talking just to fill the silence rather than contribute something meaningful. That's why fake confidence, intellectual fluff, or scripted opinions don't impress them. They hear the gaps. This mental filtering isn't something they can turn off. It's automatic. They edit everything as it comes in, like a live fact checker with zero tolerance for fluff. That's why when you do say something sharp, layered, or unexpected, you'll see a rare spark in them. Now you've got their attention. Until then, they're just quietly trimming your sentences in their mind, waiting for something real to happen. Number 7, they've already imagined 10 different versions of this moment. When you're caught up in the heat of the moment, a Sigma male is miles ahead, mentally speaking. While most people react in real time, driven by emotion or impulse, the Sigma male has already simulated this entire situation in his mind. Not once, multiple times. He's run the possibilities like a strategist playing chess in a thunderstorm, anticipating every move, every reaction, every consequence before it even hits the surface. This is why they often appear calm, detached, or even cold in tense moments. It's not that they don't feel anything, it's that they've already felt it, understood it, and moved past it before anyone else even clocks what's happening. They've reverse-engineered your behavior, forecasted your likely responses, and mentally decided which version of themselves to bring into the room. By the time you raise your voice, they've already seen how it ends. People misread this. They think the Sigma male is emotionally numb or disconnected. The truth is, he's just already been here. Not physically, but mentally. That breakup speech, he's heard it in 10 different tones already, that heated debate. He's run the argument flow in his head like a courtroom drama. That awkward social moment, he already rehearsed it and muted the cringe. He doesn't just live in the present. He simulates outcomes like a walking probability engine, not because he's trying to manipulate things, but because his mind just won't stop forecasting. It's how he protects his energy. It's how he stays ahead. And it's why drama, panic, or chaos rarely gets a rise out of him. He already accounted for it. He's mentally holding a map while everyone else is reacting to potholes. The upside, he's rarely caught off guard. The downside, it makes raw, unfiltered presence hard to access. But that's the trade-off. He isn't watching life unfold, he's watching the code behind it. Every moment is a scene he's already edited, rewritten, and rerun. That's not detachment, it's mastery over reaction, and it makes him a mystery most people can't quite solve. Number 8, they don't belong anywhere and they don't want to. Sigma males figured out early that belonging usually comes with a catch, and they're not interested in selling parts of themselves for access to a group chat. Fitting in tends to require compromise. Tone yourself down, laugh at things that aren't funny, agree with stuff you don't believe in, and suppress the parts of you that don't match the room. That's not connection. That's conformity in a costume. And Sigma males would rather be mistaken for arrogant or distant than play dress-up in someone else's identity. They've walked into rooms, sensed the unspoken rules, and quietly decided, no thanks. Because most group dynamics function like emotional vending machines. You put in approval, fake empathy, or shared outrage, and you get a brief hit of acceptance. But to the Sigma male, that kind of approval tastes fake. It's empty calories. They'd rather go hungry than feed on surface-level validation. They don't avoid groups because they're antisocial. They avoid cliques because they see the price tag. Most people sacrifice truth for harmony. Sigma males won't. They won't pretend to care about what's trending. They won't nod along to the dominant opinion, and they won't dilute their personality just to be more relatable. That refusal makes them stick out, and they like it that way. Solitude for them isn't exile. It's home. It's the only place where their thoughts aren't interrupted, their instincts aren't filtered, and their energy isn't drained by emotional politics. It's where their creativity lives, where their clarity sharpens, and where their identity stops being negotiated. They can go days without needing to belong because they've already built a world that fits them. Ironically, it's this refusal to assimilate that makes others curious. The Sigma's detachment radiates something rare in a world obsessed with belonging, complete inner sovereignty. People don't quite get it, but they feel it. He's not trying to be different. He just refuses to be anything other than real. And when you're not afraid to stand alone, you stop chasing inclusion and start attracting respect. He knows he doesn't belong anywhere, and he knows that's exactly what sets him free. Number 9, they distrust charisma. Sigma males don't get swept away by charm. In fact, the more polished and persuasive someone is, the more suspicious they become. That magnetic smile, the perfect timing, the confident tone, it doesn't seduce them. It sets off mental tripwires, because they know charisma isn't proof of depth. It's often a well-rehearsed act. And Sigma males, they don't buy the performance. They've studied enough human behavior, consciously or intuitively, to know that the most dangerous people aren't the loud ones or the messy ones. It's the smooth talkers, the ones who never break eye contact, the ones who say just the right thing at just the right time. That's not authenticity, that's a script. And Sigma males can smell a script from a mile away. Where others see inspiration, they see calculation. Where others feel comfort, they feel caution. Because charisma is often used like a smoke bomb. It dazzles the senses so you don't notice the logic holes, the manipulation, or the hidden agenda underneath. Sigma males don't get high off presence, they get high off pattern recognition. And when your words and your energy don't quite match, or your story's too polished, they'll start pulling at the thread. This doesn't mean they hate confident people. They just respect earned confidence, not charm used as a shortcut to trust. They'd rather listen to the awkward truth from someone real than a seductive lie from someone strategic. If you're a little rough around the edges but honest, they'll engage. But if you're dripping with charisma and too quick to win them over, they're already mentally checking the exit, the irony. Most people fall for charisma because it feels good. Sigma males avoid it because it feels good. They don't trust anything that bypasses the brain and goes straight for the emotional jugular. They want substance, not seduction, wisdom, not performance, so when everyone else is clapping and leaning in, the Sigma male is leaning back, arms crossed, waiting to see if there's anything real behind the glow. If there is, you'll earn their respect. If not, they'll walk away quietly, unimpressed, unbothered, and absolutely unfooled. Number 10. They don't forgive stupidity, they just go silent. Sigma males have no appetite for intellectual babysitting. If someone chooses not to think, if they wear their ignorance like a badge or double down on shallow logic, Sigma males won't argue, they won't lecture, they won't post a passive-aggressive comment, they'll just go quiet. Not the kind of silence that seeks attention, but the kind that erases you without a word. Because in their mind, if you've shown a commitment to stupidity, you've already opted out of the conversation. They're not snobs. They can handle mistakes, gaps in knowledge, or even being wrong. It's the refusal to think that triggers the shutdown. When someone clings to their echo chamber, repeats mindless opinions, or ignores facts for the comfort of their own fantasy, Sigma males see no value in debate. They don't view that as a challenge to fix. They view it as dead air, and they'll vanish from the interaction like it never happened. To the average person, this silence can be confusing. 1 minute you were in a conversation, the next you're talking to a ghost. There's no announcement, no big goodbye, just a subtle disappearance, like they mentally pushed you off their radar. You won't get closure because they don't owe it to you. What you get is the consequence of intellectual laziness, disconnection. Sigma males aren't wired to drag people uphill. They don't waste breath trying to convince someone who's married to their own ignorance. They believe that if someone wants to evolve, they will. But if they'd rather float in mental mediocrity, that's their choice, and Sigma males won't stand in their way. They'll just walk a different one. And here's the twist. The person left behind often doesn't even realize what happened. They think things just fizzled. But what actually happened is the Sigma male mentally marked them as a non-player in his world. No anger, no drama, just off. Because he doesn't believe in fixing people who don't think they're broken. To a Sigma male, silence isn't passive, it's surgical. It's his way of protecting his time, mind, and energy from being wasted on people who've already decided not to grow. And if you felt that quiet wall go up, congratulations. You've been intellectually ghosted. Number 11. They romanticize reality, not fantasy. Sigma males don't chase fantasies. They dissect reality and fall in love with its mess. While most people either try to escape the harshness of the world through fantasy or filter it through rose-colored delusion, Sigma males lean into the grit. They don't need a perfect world to be inspired. They need a real one. They don't crave utopias because they know they're fake, fragile, and usually built on denial. What excites them is the flawed, chaotic, unpredictable structure of real life, because that's where the real data is. They don't pretend people are better than they are. They see the contradictions, the selfishness, the illusions society lives on. And they find it fascinating, not depressing, not hopeless, fascinating. To them, reality isn't something to numb or escape. It's something to decode, wrestle with, and get their hands dirty in. They don't want everything to be neat and polished. They want the raw edges, the broken parts, the unfiltered truth. That's where the beauty is. That's where the meaning lives. A Sigma male would rather have an honest mess than a comfortable lie. They don't idealize relationships, careers, politics, or people. They strip the fantasy off and study what's really happening underneath. They get more excited by a flawed but authentic conversation than a perfectly curated connection. They'd rather walk through a storm they understand than live in a dream that lies to them. What throws people off is that Sigma males seem too rational to be romantic. But the truth is, they're deeply romantic, just not about fantasy. They find magic in the realness of things, the complexity of human behavior, the unsolvable problems, the way light falls on concrete, the raw contrast of beauty and pain. That's what moves them. That's what stirs their mind and soul. So while others are off manifesting perfection or escaping into illusions, Sigma males are falling in love with the hard truths of the present moment. Not because they're cynical, but because they're wired to find depth in the chaos. Their heart doesn't beat for fantasies. It beats for reality in all its flawed, twisted, and brilliant complexity. Number 12. They treat authority as a hypothesis, not a truth. Sigma males don't automatically bow to power, they interrogate it. To them, authority is never absolute. It's just a theory that needs constant testing. So when someone walks into a room flaunting a title, uniform, or decades of experience, the Sigma male doesn't get starstruck. He gets curious. His mind instantly kicks into prove-it mode, not out of arrogance, but out of principle, because he doesn't care who you are. He cares how you think. They don't reject authority just to be difficult, but they also don't accept it blindly. Sigma males are allergic to blind faith, and credentials mean very little if your actions don't match your role. A badge doesn't guarantee integrity. A PhD doesn't guarantee wisdom. A big following doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. If anything, the more someone relies on their position to justify their authority, the more skeptical the Sigma becomes. He studies your logic. He watches how you move when no one's looking. He picks up on the inconsistencies between what you say and what you do. And if something feels off, even slightly, he won't start a rebellion. He'll just mentally demote you, quietly, permanently. This mindset makes them difficult to control, which is exactly why systems built on obedience tend to label them as defiant or problematic. But the truth is, Sigma males don't hate leadership. They hate lazy leadership. They'll follow someone they respect, someone who thinks, someone who earns their trust with action, not image. But if you're just coasting on your title or using fear to control people, don't bother. They're already gone, mentally if not physically. What makes them dangerous to the status quo is that they don't need external validation to hold their ground. Their internal compass is what guides them, not the pecking order. That's why they'll call out flawed logic in a CEO's boardroom just as quickly as they would in a random stranger on the street. Not to stir the pot, but because they believe truth outranks rank. So while others might treat authority like gospel, Sigma males treat it like a draft that needs editing. Constantly. They're not here to worship power, they're here to examine it. And if it doesn't hold up under scrutiny, they'll toss it in the bin, no matter how shiny the nameplate. The smartest minds rarely need a stage. They're too busy rewriting the script. Highly intelligent Sigma males don't act different to stand out. They act different because they think different. While the world follows trends, scripts, and crowd psychology, they operate like rogue analysts scanning for cracks in the system. They don't just question things, they dissect them. Not out of rebellion, but because anything that doesn't pass their internal truth test simply doesn't make the cut. Their silence isn't absence, it's processing. Their distance isn't arrogance, it's clarity. Their solitude isn't loneliness, it's where genius breathes. They don't want to lead you, they don't want to follow you. They just want the freedom to not be you, and that's exactly what makes them so unforgettable. They've mastered the art of walking alone, not because no one invited them, but because they stopped waiting for directions a long time ago, while others build identities from approval and applause. Sigma males build theirs from thought, principle, and unapologetic authenticity. They aren't outliers because they're lost. They're outliers because they've outgrown the blueprint. And in a world begging for attention, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't follow, and doesn't fake it is the one you can't ignore. If this hit deeper than expected, or finally explained why you've always felt a little out of sync with the world, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button to stay in the loop with more brutally honest, no fluff insights just like this. Like the video if it spoke your language. Drop a comment below, especially if you're a Sigma male or no one. Let's hear your thoughts unfiltered. And if you've got that one friend who's always been the quiet genius in the room, share this with them. They'll thank you for it. Silently, of course. Stay sharp, stay real, and I'll see you in the next one.